All right, today we are adding some home fries or hash browns to our omelets on our breakfast plates. So stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, I'm starting out with a piece of well-conditioned Sculpey Primo clay in white. You can use any brand of white clay. I do recommend you use a fairly firm brand because it will help us to keep the details. And I've rolled it into a snake. It doesn't have to be a perfect snake. About 3/8 of an inch in diameter. Now for the basic hash browns or country fries or whatever you want to call these home fries, depending on where you live, they're called different things. For just the basic all potato one, all you need is white clay. If you want to add onions, add some translucent clay. We'll talk more about that as we put it together. For the basic, just the potato part, we want just some firm white clay. Now normally if I was making potatoes, cooked potatoes, I would add some translucent to this white clay. But because I want to keep the round, and translucent softens the clay a lot, I'm more interested in my final shape than I am in the color, because we're going to use chalks and paints and such to make this look cooked and fried. So it's more important to me to have this roundish. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. You can see mine isn't perfectly round, but I want it to retain the shape when I cut it up. So the next step now, I'm going to move this into my freezer and I'm going to freeze it for about 20 minutes. I want this not frozen, but really solid, so that when I come back and I take my clay knife to it, we'll keep pieces that have rounded edges on them. So I will be back when this is thoroughly chilled. All right, this is straight from the freezer. I just grabbed it out of the freezer and walked straight across to here. I'm going to, and it's very firm. You can see it's much harder than it was when I put it in the freezer. And that's what I want, because I want resistance as I try to cut this. And I'm just going to keep turning and cutting until I get this cut down into little tiny cubes. I'll do one section of this and then I'm going to turn the camera off and finish it because I need to work quickly. But I'm going to cut it about like that, maybe a little smaller. When I come back, I'll have all this cut up and we'll be ready to go to the next step. All right, I'm going to do a small number of these on camera and then I can do more off camera, but this way you don't have to watch me do the whole process because it takes a while. So I broke up a bunch of them, put them on here, somewhat separated. Now using not your clay knife, but a regular craft knife of some kind. This is yellow ochre chalk. And then use your eyeshadow brush that you normally would apply the chalk with. And just kind of run these through it. We don't want to cover them completely at this point. We want some white spots and some golden yellow spots. Now, if you wanted to add, say, onions to your hash browns, or green pepper or red pepper, you could certainly, for onions, I would just roll out a really thin snake of translucent. Apply some of the same colors to that, bake it, and then chop it up really finely. For green peppers, go back to my Anaheim pepper video, use the clay blend I used there, chop that up somewhat like this, and go ahead and treat it the same way I'm doing these. All right, I have that somewhat covered. There's still some white spots. Now I have a reddish brown chalk, and I'm just going to put that over the top. And then I've got a spray bottle of water. And that's going to kind of get that just, I'm going to use a paintbrush handle to kind of stir this around. That will give us some edges that are a little more cooked. So I'm going to bake this at the recommended temperature for my clay for 10 minutes. When it's baked and cooled, I'll come back and we will go on to our next step. All right, our little pieces of potato are baked and cooled, so let's scoot them off of the tray, off the paper plate, onto my work tile. And we're not going to use anywhere near all these. No, like I said, you could add other things to your potatoes if you want to. Now, I have a jar of satin Mod Podge here. I'm just using a craft stick to put some out on my work surface. I'm going to move a bunch of these in here. This is going to do two things. It's going to connect them together, going to kind of glue them together. It's also going to give them a sheen like they've been fried, because fried foods do have a little bit of a shiny surface. So we're going to let these sit here for a second. Let me get them all coated though. That way the ones that I don't use now, I can put away. They'll be ready to glue onto something later. All right, now I have a plate and I have the omelet that I made last week. Let me make sure that I am in camera. I'm going to take more of my satin Mod Podge. And I'm going to hopefully cover most of that up. I'm going to use that to glue my omelet down. I have a little too much there. Now, and I tried using a spaghetti for this, and it was not a strong enough bun. Oh, now my hands are going to shake. Awesome. I did another whole one of these to take pictures as I went. My hands didn't shake. I turned the camera on, and they do. Okay, move you back over there. Put another potato here. You can put as many or as few on your plate as you want. I guess it depends on how much you think your dolls are going to eat. Now, I'd like to get that last one on top of there. Now we're going to let this dry, and when this is dry, we're going to come back and we're going to add just a bit more color to some of our potatoes. So I'm going to let this Mod Podge dry, and I'll be back in a little bit. All right, once your Mod Podge is set enough that your hash browns won't move, we're going to add some more color to the cooked portion of our hash browns. And for that, I've got some burnt umber paint. Any really dark brown paint will work. Doesn't have to be burnt umber. And I'm using a toothpick. This one happens to be really thick, which I like for this. Now I'm going to attempt to get where I can see this and not put my head in front of the camera. And I'm just hitting with a toothpick some random edges of some of those pieces of potato. And I'll do more off camera. And then you'll be able to see it in the photo, what it looks like. Keep it off of your omelet, because you don't want to have any burnt edges on your omelet. But just a few, and let that dry. And when this is all dry, I'll get us a little bit closer and we'll take a look at the breakfast for the dolls. All right, here are both the plate I worked on camera and the one I did for photos for the blog post. I love how our little omelet and home fries or hash browns look together. They turned out really good. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure and check the blog post. There will be photos and step-by-step written instructions for how to do today's project. The link is always in the description box below. If you enjoyed today's project, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What are some foods you'd like to learn how to make? Let me know so I can make the videos you want to watch. If you haven't subscribed and you enjoy my content, I encourage you to hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up my next video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.